In this series, A Heart Called Home, we have been diving deep into coming home to ourselves. And I have a very special guest, Sadie Ackerman, who is going to help us understand getting down to those levels that we have been stuck at, how to release them, and also some other things that may have been keeping us in the dark, in those places, in those stuckness, and giving light and words to things we may have been feeling all throughout our lives, but just never really quite understood. This is a deep conversation. It's highly authentic, and it might be going into realms that you've never really traversed in before. You might be hearing stories or ideas that are going to be pretty new. Stay open minded, listen, and see what resonates. Because I believe if you dive into this interview with me, you are going to resonate very deeply with some of the things that Sadie shares from her personal story and how she has been assisting people to have freedom to come home to their authentic selves as well. Before we dive in with Sadie, I wanted to share with you that we go deep really fast. Sadie goes right down into it. And some of the places that she talks about are kind of dark and they have some kind of dark energy around it, the stories that she's sharing. I don't want anyone to feel afraid. And at the very end of our interview, she shares this message. So I want to put it at the beginning and say we have so much power. Do we give permission to things and we also take the permission back. So with that I just want you to be I want you to feel comfortable that as she's sharing these things, it's not in a place of fear. It is about a place of awareness. And maybe you'll hear the stories and you'll go, that's not my reality. I'm like, that's okay. That's great. But I certainly resonated with the things she was sharing, and it echoed into my experiences. And I am so thankful that she was brave enough to bring up some topics that are kind of new to the airwaves, if you will, but are deeply felt and are timely. So with that, we have permission for whatever comes into our field. We get to put up boundaries and we get to shoo things away and we get to fill ourselves with love. I want to help women start in this moment. What can I do to be more authentic to me? Where can I let go of things that don't serve me anymore? And how can I show up so that I'm actually following my life mission and living in alignment? That's like a core thing. And also, I'm really huge on radical self-responsibility. This is my life that I have co-created, and now I get to make different decisions for how I want it to go differently. So
Totally.
that's where I want to go.
Beautifully said. That was amazing. I'm like very much resonant with you too. We have a very similar vibe and I just love it. I'm so glad that we're connected now. I think those are all really, really powerful concepts that over time I have had to learn. I'll say the hard way, but also in a very blessed way. I've had so many synchronicities throughout my life to lead me in this direction. And throughout my journey, we didn't have things like podcasts. We didn't have a lot of people talking about it. Social media had just kind of started when I was in college and maybe like the tail end of high school. So I'm in that part of the millennial generation where these things just kind of started popping up a lot in the last, I would say, like 10 to 15 years.
Mhm.
And before that, I struggled so much. So I know that you heard my story, but for all of your listeners who I'm a stranger to, um, I grew up in an amazing family. However, my perception of my childhood was rough. I I didn't have a lot of what I needed, and I experienced so much trauma, not just from circumstances and environment, but also from things that nobody else could really see, feel, or hear. And I don't know how much you are or your listeners are willing to go to a little bit of the woo woo with me.
Go deep, go deep.
Go to the woo. Okay, I
Yeah.
love it. So I experienced a lot of energies that live in the invisible. You might call it like the fourth dimension or the other side, or they're not embodied physical beings, but I've always had connection to them ever since I was born. And so much of my trauma as a kid was due to interactions with these beings that I did not have any previous association to. Nobody was able to help coach me through it or even be sympathetic about it. I was raised Catholic. So in that doctrine at that time, I was, told that I was going to hell, I was the devil, I was bad, evil, wrong. There was a lot of conditioning around how my inherent beingness was not okay and that I was a burden and all of these things. So I
I'm going
would,
to interrupt you because I want you to unpack that a little bit. What were you experiencing that you were sharing with others that then they would say those things?
right, good question. So I'm trying to see how I can explain this in the best way because I don't want to scare anybody, but this is an important topic that
Yeah.
I would like to start being more of a spokesperson for because with everything going on in our culture and world today, I do think that it's gotten extremely exacerbated. And I was even talking to my sister the other night about how her and I have been through the trenches together because I've experienced this since I was a tiny wee little child. And now it's like gotten 10 times worse. So these beings that I'm referring to, there are obviously positive light beings that serve the light. I believe that people like us, right, we're light workers or star seeds. I don't know if you've heard those terms or anyone that's listening, but I do believe that we are here to help serve and elevate consciousness and serve the light, right? And because we live in this dense world that has polarity and opposites, right? Light and dark, left and right and wrong, that doesn't mean that there's only two options. However, there is an opposite to the light, right? Dark. And these beings that I was interacting with as a young kid were from the darkness. They were entities or beings that had negative intention, right? They wanted to hurt me. They wanted to scare me. Most of the time,
Mm.
they wanted fear, right? Fear is their food. They feed
Mm.
off of that, and that's how they get their power. So, humans have really, really big, strong emotions. When you measure a human's energetic field and you start activating them emotionally, the amount of energy they offput is insane. It is such a big energetic charge. So humans are almost like a food source, if you will,
A
for
battery.
the battery, yes,
Yeah.
for some of these energies. And I happened to have a really strong battery. So I attracted a lot of these like negative energies. And because I could see them and feel them and hear them, I was just very aware that it was happening. Right. So an example would be like I lived in a home in my childhood that had multiple levels. There was a basement, then a floor above it, floor above it, floor above it, four levels. And I would be chased up the stairs by something invisible that no one else could see. And it terrified me so much. When I got to my room, I'd close my door and I'd like hide under my covers and I would be shaking, like in terror that there was something trying to get a hold of me. And then I would
Mm.
have nightmares every night that there were these scary men coming to the house and they were all murdering my family in front of me. Like
Oh my
it
gosh.
was horrible, it was violent, it was happening every single night. I would have experiences in my shower where I would be watched or I would feel like there was something in it with me and there was like violation happening. And there were, energies outside of the house. So I don't want to get too dark because I know that that's not where we're wanting to go necessarily, but I do think that bringing some awareness to the fact that these things have an impact is
Mm.
important for us to be aware of, not to be scared, because that's what I've learned through this whole journey is that we cannot be scared because that gives them fuel. It gives
Mm.
them food and it gives them our power. So coming home to ourselves to me is not just in a spiritual way, it's very much in an emotional way, it's in a behavioral way, it's in a belief way, because when we don't have our awareness of our power, when we don't own, like you said, our responsibility in our life, when we give our power away to other people, even humans, then we're leaving ourselves susceptible to these energies that want us to be afraid. They want us to have anxiety. They can control us really easily when we're out of sorts and when we're not in our power, when we're not home with ourselves. Later on in my journey, after these like really traumatic things happened, which mind you, even though these things were invisible, to me, as the experiencer of it, it felt like there were literal physical human being men coming to my house as a child and laying over on top of me, trying to suffocate me, chasing me around, trying to hurt me, trying to stalk me. It was like the most horrible horror movie you could probably write a plot about. And then I had the secondary trauma of my parents invalidating it, saying, you're just making it up, you're crazy. And then, like I said earlier, from the religious perspective, anytime I would talk to a friend about it, I usually had very religious friends, younger age, in my younger ages. And they got scared of it, obviously, which I can't blame them. But the response that I got was always like, I'm unsafe. I can't even live and exist in this home that I'm supposed to feel safe in and feel even an ounce of I'm okay or I'm regulated. So these experiences, having like this, uh, I'm not supported, nobody sees me, no one understands, I became really, really, really dark over time. So then into my adolescence and into my teenage years, I hated my family with a passion. I was so
Mm.
internally angry towards them for not wanting to like listen or know how to validate me, for not having the awareness to be like, oh, like Sadie seems like she's really struggling. We should help her. And so then I started acting out as a teenager. And then more trauma happened due to some of those decisions, right? And I sought a lot of attention and love from boys. And that led to reckless behavior and more trauma. And that just kept happening until my early 20s when I started waking up to the idea that like this isn't going to work for me anymore. And bless her heart, my mom, my sister, my dad, they have always been supportive of me. They just haven't known how. So that experience of being a highly sensitive person, of feeling everything around me, empathically taking on other people's emotions, it was all so much to hold and to handle, and not really receiving that kind of support back or that understanding. It just made me go into these deep, dark places of thinking to myself, like, I'm not lovable. I don't matter.
Mm.
I shouldn't exist. Why am I even here? And being compared to my sister, who was perfect, and she still is, and I love her for it now. But I will say, like, I hated her, love her now, but I hated her back then. Like, I was always in her shadow and compared to her. And it seemed as though my dad loved her and just didn't know how to love me. So then again, I developed those stories unconsciously that I had to then learn later in life, that as a young child, I internalized, I'm not lovable. No one could ever love me. What's wrong with me? Something is inherently wrong with my beingness because I'm unlovable and I'm not worthy. I don't deserve good things. I'm bad. Like I literally have had to go through piecing out and untangling all of these really deeply embedded belief structures that nobody forced me to take on, but that through my perception of my experience made it such that I believe those things about myself.
Mm.
Is that making sense? Kind of
Oh,
threading together?
absolutely. And I will link that episode where you share your story so that ladies, you can hear more of what she's talking about because she goes in greater depth. And but I think that this is a really great companion piece to that because you like I appreciate you going into that detail of like what were you feeling and what were you sensing and seeing and not just like, well, some scary stuff. It
Yeah.
was just yeah, because I don't know. I want to ask a couple questions on that because other people may be wondering as well. Like I so during that time, you didn't feel like, oh, I was experiencing these things because I watched a scary movie and now I'm just imagining that these things are happening. It was because you said that like these started happening when you were really, really young. And
Mhm.
then with that, I'm so interested as you got older, how you were able to kind of turn off the darkness and turn on the light.
Beautiful question. Um, so to the point about like, was this just my unconscious mind trying to process something violent or scary that I may have seen? Um, Obviously, I didn't have the ability to comprehend that as a kid, that like maybe this is just from a movie. Um, the amount of experiences that I had, all in different expressions, I guess I'll say, they felt like they were happening even outside of my dream world, right? Like it wasn't just me going to bed and my brain trying to process something I had seen, which my family never really watched horror movies. I wasn't exposed to that. I may have been exposed to a little bit of too much violence at too young of an age, but I don't think that I watched a horror movie until I was like an older teenager. So I didn't know really what those things were. Um, Being exposed to Catholicism, like at times maybe the word demon was mentioned, but it wasn't enough, I don't think, to spawn these experiences that I was having. So throughout part of my journey, I will say, like at some point, I thought maybe I was really just making this up and I was trying to process something going on. And the crazy part is that when my parents sold that property, I was in my early 20s, I think maybe 23, 22, something. I had a house clearer come and walk the property. I didn't tell her about any of my experiences. I just told her that there was some really weird stuff that went on here when I was a child. She walked the whole property and she told me about all of the energies in the house that had affected me. There was a family of ghosts in the basement, which every time I was in the basement, I felt presences there just in my waking day to day life. I felt a presence there. And these ghosts in the basement were not actually the darker vibrational beings. They were just like trapped souls that hadn't moved on to the other side yet. Um, the the energies in the bathroom that would like watch me and kind of violate me, she confirmed that. The energy attachment, there was a male entity attached to the mirror at the base of the stairs going up to where my bedroom was. And
Oh,
she
crap.
pointed out that that thing is what would chase me up the stairs and would attach to my mirror in my bedroom because I had like sliding glass mirror doors, and he would like watch me and he would just stay there like all night, and sometimes he would like try to torment me. And my brother-in-law, once I started doing this, he's like, "Oh yeah, I felt that all the time. I felt being chased up the stairs at your parents' house. Like that was something that I definitely knew happened." And my boyfriend in high school, he also used to tell me like, "I'm really scared at your house. Like this is really, really weird." So I started having more and more people validate this. When that energy house clearer came, it put all the pieces together and I was like, thank the Lord, I am not making this up. Like this is validated. And we went outside and walked the property. And at the time, we had moved everything out of the house, everything out of the garage, the sheds, because it was like a horse farm. So I grew up with horses and animals and all of that, which was beautiful. But everything had been moved. We walk out to the yard, and there is a pair of boots, like big walking boots, that are they look like something had just walked out of them and they were laying on their side. So one was in front of the other. I still have a picture of this. And she said that there was a portal at the end of the property that I don't remember if she said that someone opened it or how it got there, but that the entities were coming through that portal. And I was a very bright light that they were attracted to. So they kept coming and kind of started living in that house and sticking around. And so she closed that portal because I did not want the new family that was buying this home to inherit these things. So it was very important to me from like a karma and a high consciousness place to be like, we cannot give this to another family with little kids. And so she cleared everything, closed the portal, and she was like, yeah, all of the things that you've experienced, I can see and feel where they came from. So that was incredibly validating. And from that point on, I was like, okay, thank goodness this was like something that I can now process and move on from. Then in my like 20s, I would say, I kept having more and more experiences of these things. So it was not just my childhood. However, when I moved away from my childhood home and I moved to Hawaii actually, because I tried to get as far away from my family as possible. First world problem, right? Like, let's go to Hawaii to get away from all of your trauma. um, and when I moved there, everything stopped. The nightmare stopped. I didn't feel entities around me. I didn't have the same level of anxiety because I had crazy anxiety in high school and middle school. Um, Everything stopped. So that was very also validating for me to be like, that home is just really, really gnarly. Then when I moved to San Diego, I did start having more and more experiences. As time has gone on, I have learned that there is potentially a link between these like portals of energy, if you will, and mold, because I'm very sensitive to mold as well. I have a genetic sensitivity to it to where I'm actually kind of deathly allergic to it. And it seems as though every home that I've lived in that we've suspected has mold, this activity with the paranormal has increased. And I have a whole lot of thoughts and conspiracies around why that could possibly be because I, yeah, I don't have to go into those. That could be probably a whole nother episode. But um, I do believe that mold is a very, very dangerous thing that also not a lot of people know about yet, but it's starting to become more of a thing, probably because of our EMF exposure, our Wi-Fi's, our computers, our cell phones, the radiation from 5G towers. Our homes are just getting infested with this lower vibrational thing that's very damaging to humans. And I do believe that the vibration matches some of these like lower entities vibrations. Um, but I'll speed up all the way until the last 2 years because this whole time, like my sister and my brother-in-law and me, we've gotten very accustomed to what I refer to as attachments. And we're all three pretty sensitive, so we kind of all get each other. And sometimes we have to like help pull each other out of these moments where these entities, if you will, can like affect us, right? I think of it like that game that you play where two people have sticky pads and you throw the ball and it sticks to your pad. Have you ever played that game before?
Yeah. Hmm.
I think of it like that, where these attachments, if you will, some of these, lower energetic frequency beings can attach. They get like connected to your body in some way, or they get into your mind, or, sometimes even an inner critic might be one of these things. I also sometimes call them outsiders because in the work that I do, I help release these things from people now, which is really helpful because when I do, then most people's problems are like they're a 10 out of 10 and they drop to like a 2 out of 10, right? So I found this concept of attachments that my brother-in-law, sister, and I all had just experiences of. I never really knew anybody else talking about them. And I came across a philosophy called IFS, Internal Family Systems Therapy. I now do parts work in IFS with my clients, and there's a subsect of that community that talks about their word for it, which is a little confusing, but they call it unattached burdens. And there is a man who has dedicated his entire life, Robert Falconer, I believe that's his last name, to understanding these unattached burdens and having an entire encyclopedia that he wrote dedicated to these things that sometimes live in our system that act as parts of us, but that are not actually parts of us. And they have a way about causing like turmoil and chaos in our lives that we don't have awareness of. And sometimes they can be contributors to our anxiety, our depression, our blocks to the life we want to create. They keep us small. They take our voice away. They'll do things inside of us that we're unaware of in our mind that is like preventing us from coming home to ourselves. So all of these things along my timeline that validated what I've experienced as a kid was just like, oh my God, that is the most healing thing. When I was exposed to Robert Falconer's book and I read it, and it was the exact same stuff that I had been exposed to and that I had to learn to manage on my own, and that my brother-in-law and sister and I just kind of developed ways of handling these things, my mind was blown. And I'm like, hallelujah. Like there's other people that experience these things. And he also did a ton of research in like all of these different cultures all around the world, and they all have words for these things. So it's just been like a massive culmination of having this horrible trauma, being almost like a test subject, or not an experiment, but like I had to go first kind of thing. And now I've learned all of these things to come to now. And I could go into so much more depth. I have so much to say about this specific topic, along with so many others, but I'm happy to explain or go into even more depth and more stories because I have many stories.
So with that, like the thought that pops up that people might be asking is, okay, well, if there are these, I don't know if you would define them as entities that
We can just call
are
them outsiders.
okay, outsiders that are influencing us in a way, where does our responsibility, because there's so much talk about how it's about mindset and it's about how like changing just simply changing your mind messages. And that's not going to be effective if it is an energy that doesn't belong to you. And where do we I feel like some people could really like latch on to that in victimhood and say, oh, it's not me, it's this thing. And oh my gosh, I'm just really troubled by this thing and or these things. So where help me like pull that apart.
Yeah, great question. I know victimhood very well. I spent 20 years of my life there. It became a very familiar home for me as well. And it is a fine line because we do, as human beings, we are co-creators in my belief system. We are co-creators of our reality, and our perception is one of our biggest tools that we have to change our reality, right? So there is no evading our responsibility when it comes to these energies because we are responsible for freeing them. We are responsible for, excuse me, getting rid of them. Um, this is where the IFS multiple mind model comes into play. It's very, very valuable, in my opinion. It's very helpful. The idea that we all have different parts of us and they all have different feelings, different thoughts. They operate in different ways, they have different behaviors. So there's different categories of these parts, which these outsiders, to some in the community of IFS, believe are there. I obviously believe they're there. I've experienced them all my life, even before even coming across this philosophy. And the other parts of us that are truly parts of us are exiles and protectors, right? So there's these two categories. Exiles are like our wounded inner child. They're usually younger versions of us, younger parts of us that are stuck in a certain emotion, a certain experience, a certain trauma. They're stuck in the past timeline, if you will. And those exiles carry a lot of negative emotion. They carry overwhelm, pain, hurt, betrayal, whatever, anger, sadness, fear. They think of them like they're locked in a deep, dark dungeon inside of your unconscious mind, inside of your nervous system, and they need our help. However, because their emotion or their energy is so overwhelming to our system, we have developed these other parts called protectors that try to keep us safe, right? They're not attempting to hurt us. They have good intention, but often the thing that they're doing inside of us is hurting us, even though they're trying to help us. So think of like a perfectionist part of you, right? If you think, which I've had this part, my perfectionist protector says, I have to be perfect before I can be seen, or I have to be perfect before I can help anybody. I have to know this, 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 and this. I have to get this in my education. I have to be perfect. I have to do it all right in order to be worthy, right? That perfectionist protector is trying to keep me safe from feeling unworthy or from feeling like I'm not good enough, right? But the way in which it's going about that inside of me and the belief system, the thought process is less helpful because then it keeps me from taking action and it keeps me from actually helping people because it says, no, you're not ready yet. No, you can't do this. And that controlled me for a very large portion of my life. So these parts of us are good. We want these parts inside of us. We just want to help them unburden. Protectors carry burdens, exiles carry burdens. We want to help them unburden. What that means is, like this protector, for example, we would want to talk to that protector and be like, hey, I see you. I see that you're trying to help me. We might not know it yet because a lot of times our attitude towards protector parts in us is that we don't like them. We want them to go away. Like, I have this perfectionist thing in me and I hate it. I need it to go away. It's blocking me. It's keeping me from my dream in my life. But the opposite thing is what actually provides the healing and the ability to get access to the exile that this protector is protecting, right? By shifting your attitude towards, I appreciate you, perfectionist part, for trying to keep me safe. I recognize you. Thank you for doing that for me. Even though you might not be going about it in the way that I would like it to going forward, I still see you. And I deeply appreciate that you've been trying to do that for me. When that part of you hears that from yourself, capital S self, it is like, whoa, life changing, right? Then we get that permission from that protector to go to the exile. And that exile who maybe felt like she messed up, like she made a mistake, and then she got embarrassed and everyone laughed at her. And she felt all of this pain and all this overwhelm of all these people judging her and feeling like she was a piece of shit and that she was worthy of nothing, right? That's the exile that then we go to and we're like sitting next to her and we say, hey, it's okay. You made a mistake. And these people who are laughing at you, that's just their cruelty. That's not about you. And I'm here with you now. I've got your back. I'm protecting you. I'm here. It's going to be okay. And we retrieve her from that situation because that was incredibly painful for her to have to experience. We say, hey, would you like to come to a safe place with me? Maybe here in my house or maybe at near a beach or in the forest. Like, let's come bring you back to the safe place. So we retrieve her and then we ask her if she's ready to let go of all of this pain that she carried, the embarrassment, the wound of her failing, of making a mistake, of, trying to do her performance and it going wrong and then everyone laughing at her. When we retrieve her and rescue her, then she can let go of all of that embarrassment and shame and pain. And then as we know it, then she's happy. She's playing. She's like, oh, I'm happy. I can actually do things and not be afraid I'm going to fail or that I'm going to make a mistake and be embarrassed and ashamed and have everyone laugh at me and judge me. Then, lo and behold, the perfectionist protector relaxes. It's like, oh, I don't have this thing inside me that I need to protect in the same way because she's good now. So I don't have to prevent you from expressing yourself or taking action in your life because there isn't going to be the same type of overwhelming pain associated with making a mistake next time or of doing something that maybe was a little embarrassing. Maybe we can laugh it off now, right? That exile takes away a learning from that experience that even if I make a mistake, I'm okay and I can try again next time and it's going to be fine. That protector also gets a learning that's like, I don't need to keep blocking you, me, self, from your dream because we're going to be okay even if we fail, even if we misstep, even if other people laugh at us. We can also laugh at ourselves, right? So these parts of us, as you go through this process of healing, they learn those lessons. I'm bringing that full circle back to these outsiders because that whole process I just led you through as an example is a normal, healthy process of our internal parts system. These outsiders, coming back to your original question about how do we not get victimized to these energies, these outsiders do not have good intentions for you. They do not want to actually help you. They are selfishly oriented. They might say that they're trying to help you. Like an example would be, well, I want you to be away from these people because they hurt you. And when you ask it, what is your intention? What's good about that? They say, well, then you're isolated. Well, what's good about me being isolated? because then you were just going to be alone. Well, what's good about just being alone? That they often don't have answers, right? Because they're not actually trying to help you. They're isolating you in this example to get you away from people or away from connection because that's how they keep feeding on you,
Mm.
essentially. So they don't have good intentions. And we have to really dig in and find the truth that they don't have good intentions before we go through the process of getting them out of you, right? Or like cutting them off. So the not falling victim to them is it's an important component when it comes in because these energies are going to try to derail you because they need the fear, they need the sadness, they need the anger to feed on. And if we keep just victimizing ourselves to them, we're going to keep feeding them. It's essentially like I also give this analogy for people. It's like if you had a home and all your doors were open, and a homeless person sees that your doors were open and they walk in and they're like, oh, this is really nice. I think I'm going to put up camp here. I'm just going to sleep in the hallway, maybe on the couch. The homeless person is analogous to this outsider. Your home is analogous to your nervous system, your body, your mind. And that homeless person just kind of takes up residence inside of you. And when you just let them sit around and start ruining all your stuff without saying like, hey, you don't belong in my house, then that's problematic. So if you only stay in a state of victimhood of like, well, it's just my criticizer, it's just my inner critic. It just tells me that I'm not worthy, that I suck, that I'm a failure, and that's just that part of me. I just try to like stuff it away or tell it that's not true. That's not helpful because it's still this homeless person living inside of your home, right? As long as it is an outsider. Sometimes I will say protector parts can become a perpetrator interject, meaning they can take on energy or emotion or behaviors from a person who has traumatized you. They're still a protector part, and you don't want to cut them off or release them. But that's just kind of a disclaimer. The outsiders that are causing some of this havoc inside, I see them as a lot in people as their inner critic or as a resentment or as like a really intense anger. Like they blow up, they go from 0 to 100 really fast. Or it's another example that I've had recently that they try to like keep you down, like they're really heavy and they keep you depressed. um, but we want to get them out of your system and send them back to either the light or the dark, whichever they choose, right? Some of them, I've experienced some in myself that mm, most of them want to go to the light. They want to be freed. They're stuck, they're trapped, and they do what they're doing because they don't know any other way. So when somebody like me can go in and be like, hey, there's another path for your existence. You don't have to keep living in this pain or this darkness or this horrible place that you're in. There is a place in the healing realms where you can be embraced and you can be loved and you can get your own healing. A lot of them are like, oh, really? I didn't know that. Right? Because I can talk to these things sometimes through the person that they're attached to, sometimes just through my gifts to understand them more. But if we still stay victim to them, they are going to keep wreaking havoc. We have to step back and say, these things aren't going well in my life, or this is derailing me, or this behavior that I do is not helpful for me. It's not just a mindset. It could be these different parts of you acting in certain ways. Now, I know that's a very long-winded answer, but hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah. So what can what's an actionable thing that women can do now if there's like maybe I'm dealing with some of that stuff. Well, wait, maybe that is something that I want to address. What's something that they can do on their own to explore that? And then, of course, they can reach out to you and to other people that do parts work that have that same understanding. Yeah.
Of course, yeah. So the creator of IFS, Richard Schwartz, he made a workbook, which is really, really helpful and valuable. So you could, get that workbook and start trying to sort out like what parts of you are in there. If, depending on how far along you are in your self-awareness journey, you might have more awareness of these different parts of you than others, but you can start anywhere. This is not something that is only for like the experts or for someone who's really far along down the path. If this is something very new to you, it is actually the very best place to start, because I will tell you it will save you years, even decades in your healing journey. Had I been given this information long, long, long ago, I probably could have cut off 8 years of my healing journey because it's just so potent. So, that workbook is a great place to start. It will help introduce you to the concept of parts, might help you identify some of your protectors through the different behaviors that you do or the different beliefs that you might carry. And it's very gentle. It's not like what I'm talking about today it's a lot. So I don't want to overwhelm anybody, but that workbook can help you work through it very gently. And if you, this is something that's very interesting. When I work with a person and I start kind of feeling into their system, and because I'm traditionally trained in integrative psychology. So I can do talk therapy, I can do psychotherapy. Like I know all of those things and those doctrines. I just have these as like add-ons because some of the work that I used to do wasn't always as effective until I found parts work and working with these outsiders that have plagued me my whole life. So um, most people that come to me and I point out when they start talking about like a rumination that they're having, or an inner critic that's going on, or the voice in their head that tells them they suck, or that they're a failure, or that they can't do it, or I don't believe in myself, or I I don't have this, that, or the other, or I'm inferior to. Um, a lot of times, those voices, when you finally pick them out, you can feel like this doesn't feel like me. It doesn't feel like it belongs to me. Whether it's, like I said, a thought, a voice, a belief, an emotion. When you get more connected to what's really going on in your head and have that like metacognition self awareness, then you kind of naturally just start feeling like that just doesn't feel like me. This doesn't feel like who I really know myself to be. Going back to your most early point around like, how do we get back to our authentic selves, right? This is the process to doing that, in my opinion. It's one of them, one of the processes. It's not the only one. That as we pull back these layers of these different parts of us and the behaviors that they do and the emotions that they carry, it helps us find the authentic capital S self, right? That self is calm, it's clear, it's confident, courageous, it's playful, patient, curious, compassionate, connected, present. It's got perspective, persistence, all of these wonderful qualities and just ways of being. That's often our authentic self. Creativity, right? Expression. So, this workbook can help do that. If you notice that there's these thoughts that you have or emotions that seem to derail you, or big triggers, a lot of times these things might show up with really big triggers, um, then that can help you start identifying them. That would be my best suggestion for like self-help work. You can also read Robert Falconer's book. It's called The Others Within Us. It is very profound, very, very helpful. And then obviously, if you're wanting the professional help, there are many people out there who know about this stuff, although it is still kind of a niche group of people. But I believe that we need to start talking about it more and making it more apparent so that people can get out of their suffering. Like I was mentioning earlier, with how everything is happening in our world right now, I do feel like a lot of us are lost, and that there's like not as clear of a direction for us to go in, and things to believe in or not believe in, or trust or not trust. And it's, in my opinion, the best way for us to live in our day and age is to keep rising above all of that chaos and all of that energy that is this gunk, and stay connected to our light. And being connected to our light often looks like stripping away these things that aren't us, that block us, that keep us from our authentic self, that keep us from living in our highest and best self, in our light, and bringing more of those qualities of self into our reality, into our existence.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Those resources, the workbook and the Robert Falconer's book, I will make sure that I link those in the show notes. And I thank you so much, Sadie, for speaking on this and for being brave to talk about something that a lot of people are like, Excuse me, what?
Yeah, I
What?"
know. I
But
wasn't thinking that's where we were going today, but
it's exactly what needed to happen. And I would not be surprised about the number of people that will recognize the resonance within them as they hear those stories and say, "Oh my gosh, I'm not crazy. Oh my goodness, that is part of what has been happening to me," or is like that. Whoa.
Mhm.
So, girls, I'm going to list all of Sadie's information. So, if you are interested in reaching out and working with her and helping work through some of this stuff so that you can get closer to your authentic self and to be like, I love that our essence, I think our essence is love. And it is that creativity and that spark and that peace and sense of security. That is our authentic self. And
Mhm.
when we can, we need to get rid of that, all the other crap. I keep seeing in my head this, as I've been doing internal work, like the core of me is this, is like almost like selenite. It's this quartz or something. Um,
Like a
it looks like a
column.
almost like a staff. And then
Yeah.
it's surrounded by all of this gunk and crap and like wax. And I just keep seeing it all just start to fall away. And that is the shedding of the old, the shedding of the unnecessary, the garbage that has just collected on us, that has been part of life that we've been carrying around because we don't have the tools or the understanding of how to get rid of it. But now we are those things are becoming more accessible. It's being talked more about, thanks to you, Sadie, and to other people that there's such a massive amount of people who are becoming conscious, who are having their awarenesses raised. Awarenesses? Anyway, they're collectively the raising of awareness. And that is that's where we're headed. And it's just fascinating with, like you were saying, all this stuff that has been happening in our world lately. And just, I mean, I think the most explosive one was, all the 2020 stuff and
Mhm.
everything that there was like a big awakening that came of that as people were able to acknowledge, like, wait a minute, the world is not what we thought the world was. Like this, wait a
Mhm.
minute, what? What's really going on? What is reality? And
Yes.
yeah, it's like, there's more to it. So
Mhm.
I recognize, girls, this conversation, it may have made you a little uncomfortable because you're like, wait. This is not what is talked about in the regular world. Like, no, it's not. But it doesn't mean that it's not reality. It doesn't mean
Mhm.
that it's things that aren't affecting us. And so thank you, Sadie, for showing up so authentically and for helping, especially like when you were talking, when when you were walking us through the the exile and the protector, it was like, stop talking about me. Stop it. Like what? I'm crying now because I recognize, like, how helpful would that be? I mean, that to me, just to be able to like, excuse me a minute, I'm gonna go back there and I'm gonna go talk to these little girls inside of me, like the exile and the protector, and we're gonna figure out what's going on because this clearly is affecting who we are. So much of what we believe is that our personality is, oh, well, that's just the way I am. That's the way.
Right.
No. That is how you have created yourself to cope. You
Mhm.
are an excellent, fantastic coper, girl. And now let's figure out how we can take the chains off so
Mhm.
that you can be free, so you can be joyful and at peace and creative and in flow and not at war with yourself. I mean, because isn't that how we feel when we are dealing with our exile and protector and then our conscious and our subconscious and we've got all that stuff going on. And you're like, blah. And then we pass it on to our kids and we like how we show up in life. And how about we not? How about we stop? How about we take off all the crap so we can get to that authentic, beautiful
Mhm.
self? So,
Yes.
hooray
Oh,
for doing the work.
yes, girl, yes. Oh my gosh, that was like, yes, so good. I'm feeling it all in my body. It feels so good. My heart is like exploding. I'm like, oh, you get it. And I'm so, so glad that you are speaking about this, that you have this platform for women to come to and listen to. Like, you are such a gem, so, so, so genuine and just fully of the light. And I am so, so appreciative of you. Everything that you said just now was like fireworks going off in my soul. Like, yes.
Yay. Yay.
So
And
good.
there is a uniting of this of women like I cannot I have to talk to you after we're done doing the official show about like, whoa, all of these women are coming into my life right now, like magnetically, super fast
Yes.
of consciousness. And I was like,
Mhm.
this is some big shifting. It's just big and it's
Yes.
exciting and it's freeing and supportive. And so yeah, I want to share that with all of my women who show up with me. So
Yes, so powerful. And I will just add in there really quickly, I'll say that, like you said, what we talked about was maybe a little bit heavy, maybe a little uncomfortable. And it is not about staying there or being afraid of it. Like, we can talk about these things and still be in our light, be in our like high vibration, be in our consciousness level. Just bringing awareness to it is like shining the light in a dark crevice, right? In a dark corner. So we're still turning on the light and still being in that high vibration. We want to live there most of the time. We're not meant to be afraid. We're not meant to be in this like deep fear channel or cycle. We want to explode out of that and just live in our light.
right. It's turning on the lights and seeing all the cockroaches and going, okay, let's take care of the cockroaches. It's
Right.
not like, oh my gosh, cockroaches, they're going to kill me. No,
Yes,
no,
exactly.
just get rid of them.
Dust them out.
Oh, thank you so much, Sadie. I
Of
appreciate you.
course. Oh my gosh, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me. I am deeply, deeply grateful.
A delight. I am experimenting with something new that I have been feeling called to create a whole woman awakening circle. It will be an online, live, guided women's experience focused on alignment, responsibility, and coming home to yourself, your womanhood, your marriage, and your motherhood. Our first circle will be Sunday, February 22nd from 2 to 3 p.m. And we'll be gathering in a structured, intentional space that includes reflection, a guided meditation, and grounded sharing. This is not a venting circle or a place to stay stuck in victimhood. It's a place to come and get nourished and recharged, revitalized, and feel renewed afterwards, and to make sisterly connections with each other. This is something I'm trying with the intention of offering it monthly if it feels nourishing and aligned. Space is limited, and there is a short application to make sure that I can help the group to make sure it's all a good fit for everyone involved. If this resonates, I invite you to come apply at wholewomanawakening.com. If something in today's episode resonated with you and you're feeling a call to go deeper, I'd love to stay connected. I'm beginning to offer whole woman mentorship. This is a one on one, intuitive support for women who are ready to realign with themselves, their marriages, and their motherhood. I'm also experimenting with a monthly Whole Woman Circle. It's a live, online, guided women's experience rooted in responsibility, presence, and coming home to yourself. You can learn more, join the community, and explore what's unfolding at wholewomanawakening.com. Until next time, may you feel supported coming home to yourself.